Welcome to Talking with Yourself, a podcast designed as a place to learn new things, talk about navigating the world, dealing with mental health, and just life in general. I'm your host, Sam Preston, and thank you so much for being here. Now, let's get into it. Hey everyone. How are you this fine morning, afternoon, evening? I don't know, whenever it is for you. How are you? I hope that you're doing well. I am doing pretty great. And I kind of wanted to start the episode off. I am doing a solo episode again, just me, myself, and I for this week. But I did want to start off just saying that I really appreciate when you guys reach out to me. It hasn't happened a lot, but I've gotten just a few messages over the last month or so of just people saying they really enjoyed an episode, or a small question they had about the topic, and just something they wanted to say. And I just want to let you guys know that I really appreciate that. I insane like I really appreciate the feedback because it helps me know what you guys want in an episode. It helps me kind of cater towards what you're looking for and the things you enjoy, and it makes it a better experience all the way around. And then it just makes me happy to know you guys are listening and you have questions, all these things. Bottom line, I really appreciate it. So, for this week's episode, I've been wanting to talk about something that's been on my mind quite a bit. There's been a few episodes where, just in passing, we've talked about social media, or, in a sense, filtering your feed. And I will say, for the most part, I'm going to be focusing on this from a mental health perspective. But I think what I'm talking about can just kind of apply to anything in general, and just kind of your presence on social media in general. But I've basically had a few episodes where we've talked about how there's a not so great side to social media and how it often does a lot more harm than good. And so I just wanted to talk about how to make it so that your feed is helpful to you and your feed is things you want to see, and not bad stuff or harmful or just anything that kind of brings you down. I feel like social media is meant to be a place of joy in a sense. I like that there's a whole side of people showing the realness to their lives and showing that everything isn't all the time picture perfect, and that's amazing. And I think that's part of what social media is for. But I also think it's supposed to be a place where you can feel safe and you can laugh and you can have fun and feel good about yourself. And sometimes there's some accounts on there that don't really aim for that message and don't really make you feel the best about yourself, or bring you down, or contribute negatively to your life or your mental health or anything like that. And even that being said, there's some people out there who have good intentions and their feed is good, and it's in a sense it's not harmful to you, but something about it just, you know, isn't isn't doing good for you. And that's okay too, because people have good intentions and that's okay, but it's still okay to take a step back and set that boundary for yourself, and to say, I understand that this person isn't doing something harmful, but for me it's just not what I'm looking for. It's not good for me, and at the end of the day I have to take a step back from that. And normally the easiest way to do that is just unfollowing them. That's kind of the simple basic step solution, is you go ahead and you hit that unfollow, and that's it. And you never see that feed again. You never see whatever message that's getting across, and it's out of your mind. Sometimes it's a little harder than that. Sometimes maybe they reach out and maybe they notice that you unfollowed them, and they kind of reach out and they're asking and they're questioning. And as somebody who isn't the biggest fan of confrontation, I can understand how hard it can be. And it's a lot easier said than done to just send them a message and say, for the sake of my well being, for the sake of my mental health, I had to take a step back. And, sometimes it's hard to do. The one good thing about social media is if you're not going to see them in person, as much as I kind of hate to say it, you can always just ignore it. Again, even as somebody who hates confrontation, I understand it's hard, but being honest and not ignoring the problem is the best way to go. And I promise, no matter how hard it is, no matter how much you hate it, at the end of the day, you're going to feel a lot better about it than, if you ignore it or you block them. But that's besides the point. Bottom line is the easiest thing to do is unfollow them. If you really have to, you can block them. There's no harm in that. You know, no, like none of these social media platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, none of them inform someone when you block them. They won't know unless they go looking for it. And even then, by the time they notice that, there's no way to contact you. They're blocked. Now, sometimes getting rid of that feed is a lot more difficult than just unfollowing and blocking somebody because I find most of the time it is not a specific person rather than how your feed is catered to you. So, like, you'll notice you're scrolling on Instagram or you're scrolling on TikTok and you like one post about some out there topic that you've never interacted with before. Let's say you are somebody who doesn't like to watch movies, and all of a sudden you come across an ad for, I don't know, the Barbie movie, and you like that post, or you comment on it, or you stay on it a little too long. All of a sudden, you're going to start scrolling and scrolling, and the more you scroll, the more Barbie is going to come up on your feed, or the more movies in general is going to come up on your feed. And so it's not necessarily sometimes a person or an account so much as an idea or a thing or a thought or something that you just kind of interact with in the slightest way. And that social media platform goes, they're interested in it. So we're going to throw so much of it at them to the point that it's 90% of their feed. And that's what a lot of these platforms do. Like, I urge you to go on a TikTok and search up a video game that you have never played of, never heard of. Let's say, I'm trying to think. Let's say Firewatch. There's a game called Firewatch. I barely know about it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Assuming that you've never heard of it, that you've never played the game before, go into TikTok and just search up, Firewatch video game and click on one video and like it or comment it or interact with it in some way. And then just go about your daily scrolling on TikTok. And you'll notice it's kind of subtle at first, but eventually it'll start showing up, a video or two here. If you keep interacting with those videos, it's going to keep showing up more and more and more. And then all of a sudden, your entire feed is based around this video game or video games in general or something like it. And that's how it often goes with, any content, but with social media content. If you get a video on your feed of somebody's what I eat in a day, and you interact with that video, say you watch it all the way through, you watch it twice, you like it, you comment on it, I don't know, something, you save it, send it to a friend, that algorithm kind of recognizes that and it clocks in that you like that content and that you will want to see more of that content. And, sometimes that's not true. Sometimes you interact with it accidentally. There's been so many times I've accidentally liked a video, or like accidentally you hit that save button and it's like, oops, I didn't mean to do that. But that feed recognizes that. And so it's going to start showing you, back onto that what I eat in a day example, it's going to start showing you more videos from either that creator or more videos similar to that one. And maybe in your mental health space, what I eat in a day is not something you want to see. And now you're stuck with it just constantly on your feed, on your TikTok, on your Instagram, on your whatever. And it's really subtle interactions that you don't even notice sometimes. It's as simple as staying on a post for too long. And maybe you don't do it purposely. Maybe you open your Instagram and you land on a post, and then somebody, in the real world captures your attention, and you're talking and you're left on that post for a minute or two, or a couple extra seconds than you normally are, and it clocks that, and it just thinks that's what you want to see more of. And sometimes it's good stuff. It's stuff that makes you laugh, funny videos of animals, good mental health tips, good recovery tips, things like that. And then other times it's the not so good things, here's how to make your mental health a little worse, for the sake of being blunt. Here's how to make your mental health worse, and here's how to not help yourself. Or it's sad news, about, I don't know, animals dying or something bad going on in the world. And there's nothing wrong with keeping yourself informed on the things that are going on in the world, but just sometimes you can't handle to see it, and you have so much going on in your life, or you really just don't need that reminder of what's happening added onto your own mental well-being. Anyway, bottom line, there's nothing wrong with filtering your feed for it to be exactly what you want and not what you think it should be or someone else wants it to be. It's your feed. Emphasis on your. And me personally, I spend most of my time on TikTok and Instagram, a little bit on Facebook, but not too much. And I even still now kind of mess up my feed every once in a while with things that I don't want to see that aren't good for me. And I'm nowhere near being a pro at it. It's very hard, and like I keep saying, I feel like a broken record, but I just keep saying one subtle little interaction with a post changes your entire feed. Now, one of the really good things about how technologically advanced we are these days is that there's a lot of options within these social media platforms to be able to filter out certain content that you want. Like Facebook, I don't know too much about, but I do know there is actually a way that you can go into your settings and make it so that you are only seeing the content of people you follow and groups you're in. So I know if you have ever scrolled on Facebook, a lot of the times you get suggested posts like memes and news articles and these things from accounts you've never even seen in your life. And you're like, why am I getting these? Why are they here? So there is a way that you can go into your settings, and I don't actually know how. I'll have to look into that for everyone. But there's a way you can go into your settings and essentially make it so that you only see the posts of people you're following and groups you're in and things that you've essentially signed up to see. That being said, if you don't want that option on and you do like getting those little memes and those little cartoons and posts and whatever else you see, there is still a way that you can, as with any app, showcase to that platform what you are and aren't interested in. And a lot of the times it's as simple as a little three dots somewhere in the right corner or the bottom corner or something. And oftentimes when you click that, it'll pop up with a little message saying, like, I don't want to see this. I don't like this. I like this. And so oftentimes it's just looking at a post that you're not interested in and hitting those little buttons and saying, show me less of this. And it takes that into account, and slowly you come to see almost none of what you don't want to see. I don't know if you ever scroll on TikTok long enough that you swipe up on a video and it asks something along the lines of, like, did you enjoy this video? Was it worth watching? And it gives you that yes, no, maybe. And that's part of filtering your feed. It takes that into account. Granted, I think sometimes it's marketing and it's asking if it was an ad or something like that. I don't know what that has to do with your feed. But a lot of the times it's just saying, I'm interested in this, and it shows you more of that content later on. And I think part of it you have to recognize too is having a conversation with yourself and knowing what you do and don't want in your feed. You kind of have to come to a conclusion of what is good for you and what's harmful to you. And only when you know the answer to that can you really filter your feed to be helpful towards you and to be what you want it to be. So, the question that I find myself asking most when I come across something is, and I understand it's a bit of a loaded question, but just, is this good for me? Does it make me feel good? Does it do harm? Do I not really feel joy from it? Is this something I'm even interested in watching or reading or knowing? And most of it just comes down to, at the end of the day, if my entire feed was filled with something like this, would I be happy? Would I be enjoying my rotting time scrolling through my Instagram or my TikTok? So, if I'm a big lover of dogs and I love puppies, could I be happy if my entire TikTok feed was just about dogs? I mean, granted, at the end of the day, I would definitely get bored and annoyed with it, but just as a general basis, if for some reason the rest of my life my feed had to be of dogs, would I be okay with that? And the answer is yes. Whereas, let's say I absolutely hate spiders, so scared of them, can't stand them. And I get a video of a spider and I go, well, if my entire feed was filled with spiders for the rest of my life, I don't think I'd be okay with that. And I know it's a little harder than that because if we're going with this analogy, yes, I love, the occasional video of a spider. I get a good laugh out of watching someone try to kill a spider and failing miserably. And that doesn't mean necessarily that, I'm going to love every spider video I come across, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to hate it. This is probably a really terrible example. But all of this to also say that, one or two videos showing up isn't the end of the world. I'm not going to be absolutely miserable for the rest of my day if I come across one spider video. But, just all this to say it's not as simple as that. And I totally understand that. But just for the sake of examples and making things easy, I'm just going to use that one. And it's not to say that if I come across a video of a spider and I instantly say, I don't like it, that it's never going to show up on my feed again, because the chances of that happening are so slim. But it at least lessens the chances that a video of a spider will show up on my feed again. And it lessens the chance of me seeing something along those lines in the future. And it doesn't make it zero, because that's almost impossible, because there's no way that the algorithm can look at every single video that has even a mention of a spider and go, nope, that's not coming across your feed. It's like if you've ever been really obsessed with a show. You've been obsessed with this show and it keeps showing up on your TikTok, and almost every other video you scroll is of that show. And then all of a sudden you just kind of stop liking that show. And your feed goes into something else, say pets and jokes and all of this stuff. And that doesn't necessarily mean that because that show is gone from your feed that it's never coming back. I don't know if you've ever experienced it. I definitely have, where I've become obsessed with a new movie that came out and I'm getting all these TikToks about this movie, and then it kind of dies down and I don't hear about that movie for a while, and then a month or two later an interview shows up on my TikTok, or an edit or a trailer or something from this movie, and all of a sudden it's back in my feed. Like, you can never fully get rid of it, but you you can do your best if it's something you don't want to see. So let's say we're talking about it from a mental health perspective, and you get this account in your feed, and you know that they're not helping you. You know that seeing them, whether or not their intentions are good or bad, seeing them do what they do is not helping you. And it's kind of sending you backwards and it's putting you into bad habits. The very first thing you should be doing is finding those three little dots in the corner, that little settings option, and saying, I'm not interested in it. And I think part of it also goes without saying to not interact with it. The more you interact with it, the more that platform thinks you're going to like it or thinks you like it. And the more it's going to put stuff like that on your feed. So, a big chunk, in case you haven't caught on yet, a big chunk of filtering your content is just the interaction portion and learning to not spend a lot of time on that content, because to those algorithms, spending time on it means that you're enjoying it. If you rewatch a video 6 times, it's safe to assume that you're enjoying rewatching that video. If you like a video, it's kind of in the name, you liked the video. You save it, you send it to a friend, that counts as like the algorithm thinking you enjoyed that video. So most of this does boil down to just the interaction portion. And of course, there are little other things you can do to kind of filter out that content. But most of it comes from not interacting with it and finding out how to tell that platform that you don't like this content. And sometimes it'll ask you, like I said, mentioned with TikTok, you swipe up and there's that, were you interested in this video question? Sometimes on Instagram, a little little message will pop up at the top of the post that says, I think it's the bottom actually, that'll literally just like have a button that allows you to say not interested or show me more, show me less, something like that. And I know Instagram actually also has an option in your settings. Like if you go to your profile and I think the settings button for this is the top right at the newest update or whatever. And you can go in there and there's a whole section for your preferences. It shows you, who you've blocked, who can view your story, mention you in a comment. And there's a whole portion about filtering your content. So you can go in and you can choose an option to hide certain comments, what Instagram would deem as a harmful comment. I'm not necessarily sure what that would entail, but I know there's a specific option where you can put in words that you don't want to see, and Instagram will filter out that content, will hide those words in comments. So let's say if we're looking at it from an eating disorder perspective and you don't want to see mentions of, we'll say calories. Calories is the word we'll use. You don't want to see any mention of calories in comments or anything like that. No, you put that word into that list, and Instagram does its best to filter out any of that content relating to the word calories. It hides those comments. Granted, I think if you scroll to the end of the comment section of a post, it actually gives you an option to look at those hidden comments, but nonetheless, they're out of your immediate view. And so if we're going back to that spiders example, and I don't want to see anything about spiders on Instagram, I put spiders into that word, and all of a sudden, if I'm on a post about animals and there's 18 comments relating to spiders, they're hidden. I don't see them unless I go looking for them. And so if you're kind of not sure even of the words that you want filtered out, I know there's an option through Instagram where it's their preferences, for lack of a better word, I guess. So you can just hit hide comments, hide whatever, and they take what they see as harmful and they hide it from you. Or if you do know, some of the content that you don't want to see, you can go in and you can customize it. And I think I kind of mentioned something like this earlier with Facebook, where you can filter it so that you only see who you follow and the groups you're in and all that stuff. You can do something similar with Instagram. where for a period of time, they will stop showing you suggested posts. So I don't think it's a permanent solution. I think you can only do it for like 30 days or something. But nothing to say that once those 30 days are up, you can't go in and turn it back on again. And so it's something similar to what Facebook does, in which you turn it on and it only shows you posts from the people that you're following. And it doesn't give you suggested posts, and it doesn't give you, I don't know if I'm assuming it still gives you sponsored posts, but it doesn't give you anything suggested. And with TikTok, I, the majority of the point of TikTok is scrolling through and seeing videos from people you don't follow that the algorithm thinks you would enjoy. So it's kind of like you can't really turn that off. And I think the closest you can get to turning that off is that there is an option on your For You page to just see videos of your followers. So it's not necessarily turning off those suggested posts, but it's getting rid of them for a little bit of time. Granted, you can always just swipe back onto that, For You page and away from the followers. But if you're just ever not in the mood for potentially coming across content you don't want to see, the safest bet is just knowing who you follow. And if you follow people that you trust and know will bring you joy and know are good for you and you like to follow, then you just swipe to that friends only side of the TikTok, and that's what you scroll through. And for all you know, you scroll through those and you interact with that content. When you go back to your For You page, a lot of the videos are going to be more similar to that than to whatever else they would have been before. And I think at the end of the day, kind of like I said, it comes down to knowing what you want in your feed and knowing how to interact with that to get more of it. And so it's just like I said, most of it is the interaction portion. If you come across a video that you really enjoy, stay on it a little longer. A lot of the times with TikTok, if I come across a video I enjoy, I'm a very ADHD person. I can't just sit there and watch it 8 times over. I will start scrolling through the comments. And I'll scroll through the comments as the video plays out 2 or 3 times. I've liked the video, maybe I'll send it to a friend, maybe I'll save it. And I'll just sit there and I'll scroll through a lot of the comments, maybe like some of those comments. And the longer I spend on that post, the more TikTok is going to recognize that I like that content. And the more of that content that it's going to show me. And, same goes with any social media platform, not just the ones I've talked about. I don't really know how Snapchat works anymore. I've barely used it since, I don't know, I was in like elementary school, and the most you could do was send pictures to people for 5 seconds or whatever it was, or 3 seconds, I don't know. But I'm assuming the same goes because I've seen those subscribed stories or whatever with the really clickbaity titles, which also, just for a little rant, for a moment, I hate those things because they're such clickbaity titles, and they're not going to show it to you. It's like it shows a picture of like the most famous actress at the time, and it's like, who's pregnant? And you're like, oh my God, she is. And you click on it. It's nothing to do with her. It's nothing to do with somebody being pregnant. And it's all obviously just for clicks and views. So with that, I always just like to say, if I see something on those, I don't click on it. I just immediately go to Safari, and that will give you your answer in 2 seconds to whatever's happening, as opposed to scrolling through like 80 things of content on Snapchat to not even come up with a real answer. But anyway, I'm sure the same thing applies for that type of stuff. The longer you stay on one, or the more that you go through a story, the more it's going to show you in the future. Anyway, I got a little off topic, but I feel like I'm just rambling at this point about the same things over and over again. And I feel like I've pretty much gotten my point across, that it's quite easy to filter your feed, and it's not a 100% perfect solution. I don't really think there's a way to entirely avoid harmful content. There's no surefire way to avoid those suggested posts. I think the only way to really do that is if you stay away from anything that has to do with suggested posting. So when you're on Instagram, if you are following that handful of people you know are good for you, and all you do is stay on that homepage, you hit that suggested content thing and you turn that off, and all you're getting is those posts from the people you follow, then you've pretty much aced it. You don't even go to your search, you don't look at those suggested posts in your search, which is a whole other story and again proves the point of how strongly one interaction can like filter your feed. If you're on that search bar in Instagram, the sake of getting off topic for a little bit, if you're on that search bar in Instagram and you see all those suggested posts and you just click that one, and you don't even have to like it at that point because you've looked at the post and you've clicked on it, and that counts as interacting to them. And if you get out of that post, let's say it's a post about plants and taking care of plants, and you click on that post and you spend 2 seconds on it, 2 seconds, and then you get out and you refresh that search bar, it's just going to be like so many posts about plants all of a sudden. And the more you click on those posts and you refresh that bar, it's just going to keep showing up and showing up and showing up. But anyway, needless to say, there's not a 100% solution to these platforms. And I know there's a whole other deal out there with Twitter. I don't even bother with Twitter. I don't know how to work it. So I don't even think I could help you on that end. But even then, just a simple like Google search about how do I filter content on this platform. So many helpful things come up, and there's so many websites and forums and stuff out there that know way more than I do, first of all, and just have all these like little tips and tricks you'd probably never even think of. But anyway, again, I don't want to keep going in circles and rambling about the same stuff. So I'm just going to call it here. But I really do hope that, you got something useful out of it, even if it's just having the thought process to step back and really do an intake of what content is good for you and what content you enjoy. Then I'm happy. I hope I got across some form of message and that you learned even just a little bit about filtering your feed, because it is so important, especially with how much time we spend on social media. And social media should be a place of fun and happiness and learning things. And it should not be a place where you go and your mental health takes a punch or you come out of a little doom scroll feeling way worse than you did 20 minutes ago. And I just think that's why it's so important that we know how to consume our content and that we know how to change that content to suit us best. But, anyways, I will end off as usual with an affirmation to you all that is just saying, you are beautiful in so many ways. And I'm not just talking physically, I'm talking mentally. Your mind, your strength, your determination, everything about you is beautiful. And please don't ever forget that. With that said, I hope that you carry that message with you throughout the week. And I will absolutely be carrying it with myself because I think it's just so important to recognize. And beyond that, I will talk to you all again in the next episode.